What does it take to name a brand for a market you've never stepped into? This is How the World Names, conversations with members of We Are Naming, the global network of experts shaping the future of international brand development. In this series, we explore what's wonderful and weird about the languages, cultures, and countries we represent. Welcome to How the World Names. I'm Caitlin Barrett. I am the U.S. partner at We Are Naming, and today I am joined by Judy Wang, our partner in China. Hello, Judy.
Hi, Kathleen. Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much for being here. I always love getting to talk to you about naming. I think a good place to start might be to ask you to share a little bit about your naming life, your naming practice, whatever you'd like to share, how you got into naming, and maybe a little bit about the kind of naming work you do today.
Sure. So I've started my career from public relations, so it's kind of a communication work. And then I feel I'm more interested in the brand identity building. So I went to a brand consultancy to do brand strategy, the positioning work. And then I think it's just a coincidence that I got some naming project as a strategist. And then I feel like this is a very interesting area. But I didn't think, I will just grow my career on it. I just feel I'm more interested in naming because it's more concrete, while the brand strategy work for me is a bit more abstract. I like, the more solid work than the abstract one. And then after several years, I think one of the brand agency in Shanghai, they went to me and see if I have any interest. And then I went to their place to grow naming. But then by that time, I don't know if I will, do it very long as my career. And then I went through a few more naming projects, and I feel, yes, I'm really, I like it. And more importantly, I feel I'm very good at naming. So then from there, I think I decided to go naming as a namer. And then 5 years ago, I started to run my own naming studio called Chopboard in Shanghai. And yeah, that's it. And then I think overall I have got 12 years, 15 years of naming experience. I create names for Chinese brands for both Chinese naming and Latin naming, and also for some global brands like L'Oreal and Mars and Wrigley, to do some Latin names, and also some Chinese naming for their global brands. That's it.
So we're gonna get into it today about how that works, because I think some people might have experience naming for other markets, but the China market works. I was going to say a little bit different, but kind of a lot different than some other markets around the world. And you have a lot of experience helping global brands navigate that. But first, I want to talk to you about a report that you wrote that's been so helpful to me about what you, meaning anyone who wants to name, what you need to know about naming in China. And I'm going to ask you a couple questions about this, and I'll link it in the show notes so that folks can read it to understand things a little bit more deeply. But one of the things that you say in your report is that Chinese is the world's only remaining ideographic language. Could you talk to me a little bit about what it means to be an ideographic language and what that means for naming for brands?
Sure. So that's true. Chinese is, I think now is the only remaining language that we start with start with meaning. That is because Chinese character. When this language was born, it started with painting. So all the characters they were created as a drawing to mean something. And that's the origin of our language. For example, the character of brightness was consist of two radicals. The left radical means sun, and then the right radical means moon, and then they consist of brightness. So every Chinese character was born that way. So when we see characters, when we hear characters, we will intuitively we will think of meaning first instead of the sound. So I think that's the fundamental difference with the Latin language system. And then for us, that means a lot, as a name. Then it means when we hear a name, when we will firstly guess what's the meaning, what's the association, possibly, instead of to feel the sound of it. As I mentioned to you last time about the famous brand like Temu, or the Chinese brand like Vivo, they are all like pure phonetic names that means nothing. This kind of characters also they means nothing to us. We can hardly identify what is the meaning behind or what is the feeling behind. Even like English speaker like me, I can hardly tell you what's the emotion behind Timu. Maybe you can tell me about more, but I
I
have
honestly
I have
can't.
no. Yeah,
But
so
I
that's all I think. The points when we hear such a Latin names, and then for my Chinese clients, when I did Latin naming projects for them, they won't choose. I mean, all of my I will say all of my Chinese clients, I did a lot of Latin naming for them, but none of them they will go to the empathy meaning type of name at their first impression. So even though I spend so much effort to let them see the value behind, but then it just don't ring a bell in their brain. They cannot fall in love with it. So by the day, it's still I think most of my project with them they went to the meaningful type of name like the coined word or a twist of a one word, etc. So I think it's one thing. Maybe it's very different from you because I see in Western world there are a lot of empty meaning type of name. Um,
Yeah, I would say that's one of the big differences that people need to keep in mind if you're naming for the market in China is, a lot of times that is a strategy. Come up with an empty vessel that maybe just like through tone conveys a feeling that's maybe like really smooth and groovy or very sharp and commanding. And you have to expect that when you put those names in front of Chinese speakers of various dialects, there's going to be really different interpretations of them, and a lot of those sounds that you think mean nothing do mean something. And that meaning is going to be interpreted pretty seriously. And that's why, I think having experts in China to help you navigate this process is not just a good idea. I would argue it's essential. I think there's a lot of complexity in China that I think from, at least definitely from the US, we do not have like the cultural and linguistic expertise to navigate that well. So
mhm.
I've met people from China and I tell them what I do and they go, "Oh, that's so cool. We don't have that in China. We don't have naming agencies." And I go, "You do. You have Judy." I feel so cool to know you because you have such a good mastery of this. The last time that we had a naming chat last week, you talked to me about the name Pop Mart and kind of its meaning. Pop Mart, Labubu is having a huge moment globally right now. As we are recording this, maybe in a month when this comes out, it won't be as hot. But I would love for you to just break down what Pop Mart means and kind of how the Chinese market understands that name. Because I thought it was really interesting to get your take on, one part of it does have a clear meaning that's very cute, and the other part is a little more abstract, but it's still a successful name.
Yeah. Um, so Pop Mart, I believe the founder created this name from the Latin name first, Pop Mart, because he wants to build up this pop culture, the pop art. So I think that's where this Latin name from. And then he tried to transliterate the sound of Pop Mart into 泡泡玛特 in China. So in China, nobody will call Pop Mart. We will just go with 泡泡玛特, the Chinese name. So this name is indeed, I think, is one of the very different Chinese name among all the, this famous brands. It is because that, as I said, Chinese, we will go to, sorry, we will intuitively go to the meaningful name. But then Pao Pao Mate is a different case. It's a meaningless name. So Pao Pao, even though it means bubble, but we will not try to, think, oh, what's the bubble means to the brand? Maybe there's some association between bubble and the brands. We will just go with, oh, this is cute. It's a lovely concept. It's just cute. It's nice. And the mate means nothing. It's, even though ma means, literally it means a gem in the ancient China, and te means special. But then mate means nothing. And then Pao Pao means bubble. So you just feel like, oh, it's a lovely name, and it's international because it's try to use this transliteration type of naming approach. That is a classic naming, a typical classic naming approach used by foreign brands. And then they try to, I think the founder tried to bring these two parts together to build an empathy vessel for the brand. Maybe this is also one of the concept he wants to grow. It's like emptiness or meaningless is the permanent art. That's actually one of his great sayings when he took one of the interview, saying like the emptiness or the meaningless, the value behind the meaningless is permanent for market, or it's a permanent art. So
Wow.
I mean, constantly all this they kind of they bring together, but it's fun. And he I think Pop Mart, it's like a container, he brings so much type of characters or styles into Pop Mart. So that actually make sense, interestingly, to use a name like that, Pop Mart and Pop Mart.
Because it's not going to limit him as the whole brand grows. They can introduce more and
Yes.
more things, and there isn't really a cap on what's available. And that's so interesting to make sure that you're thinking ahead for what your brand name can contain and what it can give you permission for. I want to talk to you about you outlined three strategies, I think, for global brands entering China. Number one, I think it's important to restate, if we haven't stated clearly, that if you are a brand in the US, in the West, you have a Roman character name, an English name, a Latin name, however you think about that style of name that is not in Chinese characters, you're going to need a second name. You're going to need a name in Chinese. So there's kind of this two-pronged approach that brands need to consider. And I have firsthand witnessed brands really be caught by surprise by how much they're going to have to think about their brand's meaning as they enter China. Would you take us through those three strategies for brands as they're entering China, and maybe share some examples for what those look like?
Yes, sure. So as you said, I think the first step when global brands come to China, they should consider to have a Chinese name. This is, I think, the fundamental thing. I'd like to chat a little bit about it, because some of my foreign clients in the recent 5 years or even 10 years, they started to ask, do I still need a Chinese name for me? Because they feel, oh, Chinese is growing so international, and English level is growing. They feel when they come to Shanghai, a lot of people, they can speak English. So they started to doubt. Do I still need a Chinese name? Yes, I will definitely say, because, firstly, it will help your communication. And secondly, even though I can speak, English, but then it's not my mother language. So that means I can hardly spell it. And then if I cannot spell it, because I can hardly remember all the, letters, so then I can hardly spell it. And then when you go to the Chinese e-commerce, that's the biggest, channel for people to shop. I can hardly spell, and then I can hardly type. So that I think that's one of the fundamental issues. So you really need to consider to have a Chinese name to avoid that barrier. And then we come to the three, classic approach. One of I think the classic approach is the phonetic transliteration. Just like Pop Mart, 泡泡玛特. So the name doesn't mean so much things, but it's try to mimic the sound. So for this one, we can bring a lot of examples, particularly for the luxury, traditional luxury brands like Prada, Chanel, this type of brands. So like Prada, 普拉达. 普拉达, even though single character means something, like 普 means ordinary, 拉 means pool, and 达 means arrive. But then when they bring together the characters, no Chinese will try to understand character by character. We will just say, oh yeah, it's a foreign, name. It's just like a foreign people's name, like your name, Kathleen. For us, it's Kaiteling. Then we won't try to understand the meaning behind. This is a very common naming approach applied by many, I would say traditional, but a lot of foreign brands, particularly like 30 years ago. But now it's not, the intuitive right choice or the correct decision to take this approach. This is because the market has changed a little bit. During the past decades, it is because there are a lot of, foreign brands using this approach that also have influence on the domestic brands. They also try to use this type of approach to look more international. So then it has an impact on consumers' perception. When we see a phonetic transliteration brand name, we won't, immediately go to, oh, this is a foreign brand for sure, because it's using this approach. No, we will have a doubt. Is it a domestic brand? Try to look like an international brand, a Western brand, or it is really, a Western brand, a foreign brand. So then this type of approach, I think it has lost its advantage at the first impression. But still, I think it's a classic approach we can consider, because when we see a foreign brand, we will, I think we have got used to it, to see a phonetic name. So if a foreign brand, when we see its Chinese name has no phonetic connection, we will go, yeah, oh yeah, this is different. But trust me, there's no negative perception. We will just say, oh yeah, it's different. It's quite creative. It's bold. And that's it. So we can still find some brands using non-phonetic connection approach. For example, like Clinique, the American cosmetic, the skincare brand. In Chinese, is 倩碧. There's no phonetic link, and there's no semantic link. Also, 倩碧, 倩 is a beauty, and 碧 is the jade. We won't try to question, oh, there's no phonetic link, and what's the problem? No, we will just go, yeah, it's different. And then we have the second approach, that is the semantic translation. For example, like Apple and Red Bull or Blue Bottle, they all choose this approach. I think it's because their logo looks that way. So their logo means there's this natural link on their brand identity. So if they choose a name, a Chinese name that has nothing to do with the logo or with the English name, it's a bit strange, and they lose the biggest strength, I think, in their brand identity. So I know Blue Bottle took really many years and a lot of money to get 蓝瓶. That's the translation of Blue Bottle. Before that, they they just they just don't come to China market. They just don't launch their brand. Once they got the Lanping trademark, they just, I think, formally to start the business in China. So I think this symbol means a lot for them. But then this approach has also its weakness. That is the trademark challenge, because if you want to do a semantic translation, there's not so much options for you to choose. You have to go the approach of lamping. If you find, oh, it's taken, then you need to buy it. Or you can still try to twist if you can accept, to like lamping, you can choose the character of pink, that means bottle, but then just don't use the blue. Or you use a blue character, but then you change pink to another vessel, maybe. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah, there's still an alternative way, but lamping, this would be the perfect one.
Yeah, I think I've heard a lot of stories of brands trying to enter China and finding that that perfect translation, the one they would love to use, is already taken. So
Yeah.
then, knowing all three of the options that you're putting on the table really is important, because that first translation might be taken or it might be inappropriate. So you need that flexibility to modify it or consider one of these other approaches, because a lot of times somebody's
Yes.
already got it. That's the heartbreak of trademarks.
Yes. Then you still have two approach. I mean, another two to consider. Then there's the third approach. That's a balance between the phonetic resemblance and the meaning. So this meaning can go with your logo meaning, the logo concept, or with your brand DNA or brand message, like Coca-Cola, 可口可乐. You see, there's the same rhyme, the same rhythm between the bilingual names. And 可口可乐, 可口 means delicious or the good taste, and 可乐 means happy. So it's all their brand essence, right? Because it's a brand about happiness and it's a brand of good taste. So this would be a great name, a great Chinese name. Also like Carrefour, the French supermarket brand, 家乐福. 家 means family, 乐 means happy, and 福 means lucky. So it's also try to build a balance. So this is in Chinese culture, we call it the art of translation. It's like a masterpiece. You have you maintain the phonetic link, and also the meaningful connection. So I think many of my clients, they pursue this level of art of translation. They push us to have a great, translation work for a brand, because it's also to show their kind of the aesthetic level of their brand, etc. But I won't say it's a must. It is good, but sometimes because every Latin name has its own feature, sometimes we just cannot find corresponding character. I remember when I did the Chinese name for TripAdvisor, it's so hard because trip, the symbol, the syllable of trip, uh, we can hardly find so many characters
Mm.
correspondingly in Chinese. And then final day, we went to another approach to try to leverage the owl mascot. That is also a symbol of their logo. And we go with 猫头鹰. We change the middle character to 图, because 猫头鹰 is owl, the translation of owl. And then we twist the middle character 头 to 图. 图 means journey. So then it's kind of in line with their brand offering. So consumer will find it as interesting because they see the owl and they see, it makes sense. It's a brand about traveling. You have the journey character. Then when we did the consumer test, I think the majority of young generations went to this option. They like it because it's lovely. Um,
Yeah, it's very visual, it's very poetic, and it has that brand connection. So that's kind of a I don't know, yeah, a win when you can't get that when the translation itself or the phonetic kind of adoption doesn't work. I think that's a great solution. It's very beautiful.
yeah, thank you.
We've been talking a lot, kind of about Chinese in this grand sense, and really, I think primarily what we mean is written Chinese. The additional layer that brands need to think about when they're going to China is how many dialects you have there. I think we think about Chinese as just being Mandarin, and that's not true. There's just so much linguistic richness going on in China. It's very big. Can you talk a little bit about, thinking about different dialects in China and how that impacts naming, if that's part of your practice and how you think about it?
Yes, so this dialect thing is firstly we really need to consider it because there, as you said, there were so many dialects. I don't know how many, but I know there's a lot. But then you don't need to worry about the quantity of dialects because you don't need to cover perfectly every dialect. For some of the dialects, nobody is saying it, or it's it was only spoken by a very niche region. So the majority dialects that we need to pay attention to is Shanghainese and Cantonese, and then Fujian province there's Mingnanhua and Kejiahua. Um, and also maybe Sichuan, Sichuanese and Hunan. Uh, I think that's will cover, will secure you. I think okay. Mm. Uh, Among all these dialects, so to my experience, most of the problem may appear in Shanghainese and Kejia and Guangdong, so that's Cantonese. There because there are many slangs that we don't understand, and particularly I think in the southern the south part like Cantonese and Minnan, there are some strange things sometimes will pops up, so you need to pay attention to. And also in the north part in China, I would say, um, because the north part is a big part of China. Even though they can speak Mandarin, and you feel the dialects is a bit it's a bit similar to Mandarin, but still the culture is different. So when they see some names, when we see a character or a word, the association might go different. So you still need to consider, the north part, like Beijing or the northeast. Better to check a few of your friends about their perception.
Yeah, it's true in any country. It's definitely true in the U.S. Like what someone might
Yeah.
interpret about a name in Florida might be very different than in Massachusetts. Different cultures, different beliefs, different politics, and all that. But from my understanding of China, whenever I've run kind of linguistic checks, yeah, the Cantonese speakers will have different interpretations of certain sounds and meanings than a Mandarin speaker, than a Shanghainese speaker. Very, very different, even though, from the outside in, I could easily be tricked into thinking if one person told me a name was fine and meant one thing, that would mean everyone would interpret it that same way. But putting on that lens of checking with multiple people who speak different dialects, live in different places, and making sure that even if it means different things, that you're okay with those meanings, that you can
Yeah.
work with those meanings, because rarely, do we really luck out and something has the perfect same meaning everywhere. But knowing how to work with that is important.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the dialects, we don't care if they will understand subtly differently for
Yeah.
one name because we cannot guarantee. But just as long as there's no negative, associations pops up, I think you're on a good place. And Chinese, I think even though there are so many dialects, but they can all read Mandarin. So when they see a brand name, I think more or less they will just understand this the same way.
So you list three qualities. I think this is a really I think it's three qualities. I have a list of qualities here that you list in your report that help a name succeed in China. And I think this is such a great list. So there's a sonic quality, right? The name should roll off the tongue, like how you say it is important, but a balanced shape that's easy to recognize. So that written piece of it being really important, and then a clear meaning that avoids rare characters. So that might sound simple. Oh, it's only three things. It is very challenging
Yeah.
to get names that really in any language that nail three very different criteria. Can you share an example of a brand name that you think does that really well, that, lands all that criteria successfully?
I think there are a lot of good examples. It pops to my mind like 奔驰、宝马, the Mercedes-Benz, that's 奔驰, and BMW, 宝马, and then IKEA, 宜家. They're all like very good examples as foreign brands. But it's different. I believe it's very difficult. Sorry, it's difficult. I believe they went through a very long list before they take a decision on those beautiful names. Um, for example, BMW 宝马, the sound is loud. It's all open sound. 宝马, you see my mouth opens. Some of the brands, the sound is not that loud. It's not open sound, but then they try to balance a bit. Or some brands, they want to build a delicate touch. They go to not that loud sound. It's also okay, but just I think a loud sound will help your communication, and it will feel more, how to say, positive and vibrant for your brand. It feels more grand. That's Chinese. We like grandness of a brand. That is a cultural thing, I think.
So we've
And
talked a lot about brands from outside of China coming in and how they've handled naming. I think my last question for you before we play a little game is, do you have an example of a name that's from China that you love? Like, I would love to know what an example of great Chinese naming looks and sounds like to you from within China.
Sure. Within China, we have a lot of interesting brands. One of example I'd like to share is 跳海酒馆. 跳 means jump, and 海 means sea. It's a very interesting brand. You can already perceive the specialness of it from its name. It's tried to bring this rebellious spirit
Mm.
for young generations. You just, jump to the sea to have a swim or to take a risk. So we can immediately get this emotion by its name. And the founder, it's himself, is also a very interesting guy to have some, characteristic by himself. And this 跳海, I think the sound is loud, 跳海, and it's kind of a existing phrase, so it's rolling off the tongue, and the meaning is relevant to young generations culture. And the look is also okay. It's a balance. So when we talk about look, if you choose a very complicated character with so many strokes, and then I suggest you to better to combine with a simpler character. So then they won't look so heavy. And then when we look from a distance, sometimes if you choose a character with so many strokes, we can hardly identify what is the character. You just feel so many strokes.
I feel like that's such a good example of having like a designer's brain, a designer's mind for naming. I know there's so often when I partner with a design agency and I love a name because I love how it sounds, I love what it means, and they look at it and they go, "That's going to be so ugly in a logo. We don't like the way those ascenders and descenders work." And I feel like naming in Chinese you must just constantly be thinking about that visual balance as you were thinking about all the other things of sound and meaning and just constantly playing out. That's so interesting to have that be such an embedded part of how you think about naming.
Yes, that's bring us back to the topic of the ideographic thing,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we are paintings, so we just intuitively, we will just pay attention to the look of the characters.
So, Judy, thank you for all of this, and I will make sure that we put the link to read your report in the show notes because I think getting a better sense of your options when you're trying to name in China is so helpful. But really, my best advice to anyone looking to enter China, I think more than most markets, it's important in every market, but is to work with someone who is there, who has the expertise, because there's a lot of complexity to navigate. Before we say goodbye, I am asking everyone on all of these episodes to say something to me in their language, which in every case, except for a little bit of Spanish, I do not speak. So I am wondering if you will say something to me. I don't know what it is. It could be a song lyric, it could be a greeting, it could be a personal insult, whatever you'd like. And then I'm going to guess what you said, and then you will tell me what you really said. So, Judy, what would you like to say to me in your language?
Okay, I'll give you a difficult one.
Okay. They'll all be difficult, but thank you.
Yeah, all difficult. So I will go to a sentence for you. 道可道，自由老子.
Okay. I'm just going to guess. I liked the energy of it. It had like, so I'm guessing it was friendly or encouraging. Maybe you said something like, Caitlin, I hope you have a great dinner tonight. How close am I? What did you say?
It's kind of close. So it is very difficult because first of all it comes from the 道德经. That is one of the philosophic. No, it's the
Ooh.
老子. That is one of our ancient writer or thinker. To have a great saying is 道可道，非常道. It's about the essence of the universe. That is the Dao, and so it's the Dao 可道 means the essence can be spoken, it can be said, but it's not the common essence that you ever heard in your life.
Yeah.
It's so profound. Uh, and then we twisted. 自由老子 is the free myself. So it's just you just catch the essence and to be free. The reason why is that my company, we are not only doing naming, we're also doing some products. We are doing shoelace and we write things on shoelace. So that's
I
one
didn't
of
know that.
the
That's so cool.
that's one of the copy, the content we put on the shoelace. You see, I bring it to the table.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I love we're getting philosophical in everything that we do. That is beautiful. I love that. Thank you so
So
much,
you
Judy.
see, 道可道 and 自由老子. We designed this shoelace and we use this Chinese yellow and the black to bring the spirit to the consumer.
That is so cool. I will have to talk to you more about that next time we chat. That's amazing. Well, Judy, thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise. Thank you for talking with me today. And I want to thank everyone for listening. We will drop everything you need to know in the show notes, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening. How the World Names is produced by me, Caitlin Barrett. Music is by Alex Kulik. Subscribe to our newsletter at wearenaming.substack.com and submit a question for a future episode. If you'd like to partner with us on a global naming project, visit wearenaming.com to find out more.